Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's episode. I'm talking to a speech language pathologist and coach. And what she does is she helps school districts to find speech therapists. So I'm excited to be rocking out today with Anna Workman. Hey, Anna, you ready to rock?
Yes, I am. I'm ready.
Awesome. Good, good. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Uh, yes, well, I was a speech language pathologist in a school, and I was trying to figure out how I could increase my income. And after many time online trying to find out and reading books, I finally figured out how to make more money. And in 1 year, I made $35,000 more than the previous year.
Wow. Which is a full-time income in most in Western countries anyway. That's great. So now with those successes though, I mean, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you end up with some things that don't go as planned. And we like to talk about the bad note here. So tell me something that didn't go as planned in that journey so far, and how'd you recover?
Well, what did not go well, it was later when I decided to hire my own therapist and scale because I figured out how to do it myself. So I thought I can do it for other people, other SLPs. And when I started, it was very challenging to have that connection and hire SLPs and have not just the hiring SLPs, but I also have school districts trust me to have, to have an SLP placed in their school district because I was new, I was unknown, and I was coming out and saying, hey, I have, business where I can help you, right? But many times they would say no to me because they didn't know me. And again, they didn't trust that I was maybe legit or I just the yeah, that I wasn't going to be able to do it for them.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty common too. So how did you get around that?
I kept on. It was about, even though we are afraid of rejection, and that was my thing too. I mean, who likes to be rejected, right? I kept going. I kept pursuing this, kept on calling. I remember that summer, just called so many school districts, and I thought someone is going to say yes. I needed an in. And once I found that person, they gave me that chance. I ran with it. And that was the beginning of my business as a speech therapist with employees.
Wow, wow. Oh man. And it would have been so much more challenging for you because it's something that there's not a ton of people doing. Like I know for me in music, like it's the same type of struggle trying to get in. Like you go talk to people, but nobody knows you, nobody trusts you yet. They don't know if you're going to actually do a good show, and so you end up knocking on doors and knocking on doors. But on the other hand, I always knew that there. I mean, this is common. You know that this is what happens in music, right? But for you, this is a new business, really kind of a new idea. So for you to actually have that courage and that knowledge, I guess, of faith that eventually you're going to get a yes was kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yes, it was really difficult, just emotionally, because I thought, me, this is not going to happen, but I just kept on pursuing it. And this is something I've been wanting to do for years, like for years, even 10 years prior, but I was too afraid to do it. And finally, during COVID, that's when I did it. Like, this is my year. I'm going to do it. This is my time. And if I fail, I will, I'll get back up. It's about also, I believe, the mindset.
Mm.
Like, let's keep on moving, and failing is learning.
Yeah, yeah, feeling is learning. Well, and so you did you quit your job and do this? No, you're working your job still, right?
So this semester is the first time I don't have a caseload, meaning I'm not in a school. And the reason for that is because now I have a daughter. She is 18 months old, and I've always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I run a business and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So when she's awake, I'm with her 100%. And so I work the business when she's taking her naps and after she goes to sleep. So it really, this business does not take more than 2 hours a day anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not very time consuming.
Okay. Wow. So you had a solid why for getting it done. And
Yes,
I think that's the main thing, right? I mean, people need to connect with a really, really big why because, like you say, I mean, you knocked on quite a few doors before you got that yes. So you had to have something driving you, right?
yes, yeah, you're right. And it was her because, but for 10 years, this is something I wanted to do, but I didn't have a strong why. It was more, I want to get there. And so when I knew she was coming, and I had really had to work hard and move quickly because I knew my whole life, I knew that I wanted to be present in my daughter's life. And so I worked so hard for that before she even got here. I remember, by the way, my daughter is adopted. So I knew when she was coming and I knew she was a girl. And so before even before I knew that we were accepted, any moment it could happen. So I needed to work fast. And once, we found out, I thought it was over because I did not have, like, I was still working on getting that client. Luckily she was a newborn. They sleep a lot. So I had hours where I can still focus and still work. But from the beginning, I was very present in her life and, taking care of her. And so luckily I have been mommy, all the time. And she has not been to daycare because I did not, and that's okay that's okay. But I didn't want that. That was my choice. So yes, you're right. That was my strong why.
Wow. Awesome. That's so good. So now we always talk about the band as well. And that's, I mean, that's part of your story, right? So who is it that you have around you that helps you get success in your business?
I believe that you need to be surrounded by good people, right? And so a peer group is important. So then I signed up for a coach. Actually, I have several coaches. And, because you need not the motivation, but you need the inspiration to inspire to better. And by when you are inspired, your mindset set changes to something like maybe it will happen to it's going to happen. And so I have coaches that help me. I have a peer group that are on the same path as I am or similar, I mean, in their own fields. And so that pushes me to keep on going because when you're surrounded by, and I used to be surrounded by more people that are not looking to improve themselves, then you feel like I'm okay. I'm doing better than them, so I'm okay, right? But now I'm surrounded by people who are doing way better than me. So I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. And I need to, you know, not do more, but just keep on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. It takes a lot of courage too to surround yourself around people that are in better places, right? I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, we all want to feel comfortable. We all want to feel safe. And so when we're in groups of people that are sort of like doing worse than us, I mean, this is all subjective, of course. But you sort of think, okay, well, I'm doing better than them, so it makes you feel good about that. But that doesn't
Mhm.
really make you happy. It just makes you feel like, well, it's fine, right? But then all of a sudden you start to, put yourself into a pond of big fish, and next
Mhm.
thing you know, you're like, oh boy, I need to, I need to pull my socks up here and get to work. And
Yes.
and yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming at times, but then on the other hand, you probably have connected with them and they're all real people with real problems. And, not everything is all, easy for them. They have to go through similar struggles that you do. So it makes you feel like you can do it, right?
Yes, of course. And you're right. I think when you start hanging around people like that, you start realizing they're just like you. And when you see it that way, when you think that way, then you're more likely to pursue on, and continue. your goals because they are no different than you. They're still people. They're still human. I think sometimes we see like millionaires and we think, wow, I will never get there because
Mm-hmm.
they have something special, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, well, we all do. We all have something special. We just
Yeah.
have to, you know, find what that is. Mhm,
Yeah, find that why, right? Too. And
mhm.
uh and I think the main difference is that in the group of people that want to be comfortable, it's just how you handle the issues that are happening around you. It's like sometimes you're sort of going like, if something happens, you might say, it's not my fault. It's there, it just, it is what it is. And maybe this is just not for me. And everybody in that group feels the same way. So everybody just kind of takes a step back. Whereas in the group of people that are high achievers, things happen and they're like, how can I influence this? How can I solve this problem? What can I do? And they start to reach out and, just work through it. And that's a very different mindset, right? Than the ones that are just going like, well, it is what it is. I guess it's not for me, right?
Yes, yes. And there's a saying, there's a quote that says something like, you are, I'm not sure how it goes, but you are one of the five
Yeah.
you people that you hang around the most or are around the most, or you are as successful, something like that.
You're an
And
average of
so
the five people that you spend the most time with.
there you go. You're the average. I knew that was close of the five people you hang out with. And I believe that.
Yep. In every level, in every area too. You can look at your finances, you can look at yeah, you're the average of the five people.
Yes. And so, like you were saying, like sometimes when you hang out with people who maybe like do not want more, they find excuses, like you said, like, oh, it's not for me. No, this is, I can't do this. Like things, or even like things don't work out for me, or whatever it is. Like, or even not just that, sometimes they will judge you for what you are doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then they plant a seed in your mind of like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing all of this. Maybe I should be satisfied with what I have, right? And you don't need that because it will, keep you behind. You won't move forward, or you just won't move forward because that has happened to me where you have, we're hanging out. People are like, let's see each other again next weekend. Let's party again. Let's hang out here. Let's hang out at that bar. I'm like, no, I got things to do. Like I have goals to meet. Like that's too much. Like, oh, you need to relax. You need to have more fun. That's what life is about. Like, I do understand that, but I also know that if I meet my goals, I will have more fun there. And I'm
Yeah.
dead happy anyway with my life, but you have to be satisfied with your life. But there's nothing wrong with wanting more.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that I think the main programming that we're taught with is that work is supposed to be hard or work is supposed to be uncomfortable. And I think that's where it comes into play is that yes, if you hate your job, you need to have more fun, right? You shouldn't be doing, 24/7 of a job that you hate. I totally get that. However, imagine you have a business that lights you up and makes you, it actually is something that you have fun with. Well, then what's wrong with spending more time doing that? You are having fun, right?
Yes, yes, I agree. I mean, sometimes I lose hours. Like I forget how many hours I've been working on something because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm not, it doesn't make me tired versus when I'm doing other things, work for pay, for hourly pay, that feels like it's much harder,
Yeah.
this. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Rockstar. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. If you didn't know already, my business is Creative Crew Agency. We build websites. Now, let's talk about your website for a minute. Most people realize that at this day and age, we need a website, but we don't really know what the website is supposed to do. And sometimes you'll just go and build a website for the sake of building a website. What I do is I make sure that your website actually accomplishes a goal. Now, there are three main goals to most websites. Number one is to provide information and build credibility. Number 2 is to schedule some sort of appointment and get them onto a sales call. Number 3 is to sell something like an e-commerce site. Now, when you're setting your website, you have to be very mindful that the visitor doesn't know what to do. And so you have to provide them with a roadmap that leads them down a path to wherever you want them to go. On my website, I want them to be on a free consultation. So that's why when you go to creativecrewagency.com, you'll see information about scheduling a free consultation. Now, for you though, I'm going to provide you with an extra link so that you can get your free website audit. Go to creativecrewagency.com/free website audit and schedule an audit with me, and I'll go through your website live and determine what we can do to improve your conversions and make sure that you're getting the business from your website. Go to creativecrewagency.com and we'll see you there.
Well, and I think we have to think about it too from the perspective of them. So imagine you, I mean, and we are making assumptions because I don't know who they are or any of that stuff. But I mean, if you put yourself in a situation of someone who does think that you shouldn't be working a lot and you should be out and having fun and partying more, well, my guess is that they probably are attracted to you because of your light, because of, you are lit up by whatever it is that you're doing. So having you around them brings them up. So of course they're going to want to spend more time with you and give you a hard time if you don't want to go hang around with them because you're the one that's bringing them up. But in that same level, they're bringing you down as well. So you've got to be careful about that exchange because unless there is something that you are getting out of that relationship as well, if it's just constantly a drain on you, then that's not helping you in your succession and in your growth, because they're basically just continuing to bring you down. Whereas, if you were to jump into a different circle of friends, you probably would have the same type of fun, right? But maybe they wouldn't be dragging you down anymore. Maybe you'd be sort of having like this back and forth because we all have bad days. So there's always going to be times when you're going to need someone to pull you up. But if you're always the person pulling people up and they're never pulling you up, then I'm not sure if that's the right relationship, right?
Yes, I agree. And there has been some friends that my husband and I, had to let go because they were, I wouldn't say draining, but it was more, it's not exhausting, but it was like too much in the relationship where we would hang out and we were good friends for a long time, but then you get to a point where, like you were saying, not how am I benefiting from this relationship? Not so much that, but really, this is just a one-way relationship, one-way street. Like, you are getting a lot because I feel like I'm your mentor, not a friend.
Yeah.
And so it's time. It was time. It's time to let you go. I mean, we've had a few friends like that, and they don't like that, and they judge us for that and dislike us for that. But there's sometimes it's something you have to do in order to do, to move on and to succeed and to make progress in your life. You have to let go of what is pulling you down.
Yeah. That's probably one of the hardest realizations that most people who are trying to improve their lives come to the realization, is that there are certain people that you're going to have to let go. And it's really difficult. It really is. It plays a mind trick on you because all of a sudden now you feel like a bad person for cutting the person who makes you feel bad out of your life. It's such a weird dynamic, right? But I mean, we eventually come to that point because I mean, in the end, I mean, we have this life once. What do we want to do with it? Do we want to spend our time being drugged down, or do we want to actually go and achieve something? And it just is what it is, that unless they want to come with you. And that's another thing too. I have had people in my life that have come with me, and they're only going to come with you if you lead. You can't, like, if you're kind of going, nope, this is where I'm going, you can come with me if you choose to, and they come, great. But they're not going to be attracted to you if you're not even confident about where you're going. So it's like, I'm only going to go if you go. right? That's not going to make them want to go. They're going to say, well, why don't we just stay here instead? Right. But if you say, this is where I'm going, and then leave the choice up to them, sometimes it could make it easier to make the choice to go. Right.
Yes, so totally. I had an instance, for example, I mean, these are high school friends that we grew up with. And so we've been friends for a long time. And so there was this one group, a couple, and they wanted to hang out with us every single weekend. And every time we would hang out, he would complain how life isn't going his way. And just the victim, like, the reason why is because I'm this. The reason why I'm not getting ahead is because of that. And we would be like, no, it's not that. Maybe it's this. No, 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 no. You know, people who have money are evil and all of this. And, and so we were like, oh man, this is not good for us. My husband and I had a talk, and we were like, how are we going to let this go? And yeah, you're right. It's hard, and we don't want to hurt anyone, but sometimes you have to do the hard things. You have to do things like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I always just try to have faith that they're going to see the light eventually and come, right? But now, okay, so in your journey, I mean, this you had a timeline to do this. So how did you work with, the cash flow and keeping the more money coming in than going out in your new business?
I'm a really good saver. So initially, I went from, like I said, as a speech therapist, SLP, to make sure we get in the United States, the average pay is $50,000 a year, 50 to 60. And there's a cap. Usually it's 80 or 90, the cap. You don't go beyond that usually. And only 10% of SLPs make six figures. So I knew that, and I was frustrated by it. And I got into the field to help because I love working with children, and especially this population, like speech and language disorders, and mainly to help children, Latino children who are misdiagnosed. That happens often because they have two languages. So I wanted to help them so they can have the appropriate diagnosis. And that's what I've been doing with bilingual evaluations. But still, I was really frustrated with the amount of work. I think it started there. I think we all get overburdened, or anyone that works in the school systems. And I was so frustrated at the amount of work, the amount of students. Even though I love working with students, there were too many. So we had, I think a lot of us complain about that, or that our caseloads are too high. And so that we can't keep up with paperwork. And so I thought, if I'm going to go through this, and I wouldn't say suffer, but go through this pain, I want to make more. And I needed to figure that out. How can I make more as an SLP, as a school SLP in the school system? And when I figured that out, that's when I went from, what I was making to 35,000 more the next year. Wow. And I wasn't making six figures yet, but I was making more, way more. And then later on, I was making six figures. And that money that I was making, now I could save, I can invest. So I started investing in stocks. I started investing in real estate. And that helped me have this cushion to later on get out of the school system in 2020, and then hire employees where I had enough money to live off of for that emergency fund. I had enough, but still I was making a little money from that one employee that I had hired. And then later on, I hired two, and then three, and now there are five of us. Well, five of them.
Wow. What was it that made you feel like you were ready to hire?
I've been ready to hire for 10 years. I've been ready for a very long time, but I was too afraid to make that jump.
So what made you less afraid?
I was still afraid. I was dancing in the fire. It was my why. It was my girl. I was like, I am still scared. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I have to do this now. Because I need to stay home with her, but I need to make money as well.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you know what? It's one of those things where people are like even music. Okay. So I host these open mics. People come up on stage and sing songs with me sometimes. And it's so funny that people will, no, I can't do that. I can't do that in public. I can't. And I'm too scared, and people will sometimes ask me like, how do you do it? How do you get up on stage and sing? Aren't you scared? I'm like, yeah, I just do it anyway. It's just one of those things. Like, I think people have this misunderstanding that all these things, that we just don't have any fear. It's not that we don't have any fear, it's that we've got used to it and we just do it anyway, right?
Hmm. You do it anyway, and you get used to. You're right. You get used to it. Like the first time was my heart was pounding when I made that first cold call, and then after 100 of them, it became routine. Like, all right, let's go. let's do this.
Yeah, and you still have a little jitter, right? Just a little bit, but
Oh,
it
of
just kind of
course.
goes away, right?
Yes, yes, it does. You just keep on going. But yes, it's still scary. It's still uncomfortable. But I think it's about getting outside of your comfort zone. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's how you
Like,
grow.
yeah. And even this, like, so you were my first podcast interview. So this is outside my comfort zone because it's different
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's new. But
That's not that bad, right?
no, it's not. It's like talking to a friend.
Right on. So let's talk about instruments. So, what kind of tools do you use in your business to get success?
Well, what kind of tools? Well, what I use is with I'm hiring SLPs. I use, for example, I use Indeed. I really like that one. I need to use other platforms, but most SLPs tend to go there when they're looking for jobs. So that has helped me. And then when it comes to the school districts, really, it's email and phone calls. That's how they're comfortable. Actually, they are more comfortable with they receive an email from me. But all what else? But another thing I do is I send gifts, to these administrators because who doesn't like gifts, right? And so when they receive it, they now know who I am.
Wow, smart.
Yeah. So
Smart.
then that's how I get in touch. And even when I call them, someone said this to me, like they might reject you, like you might call them and they might say, no, I don't need anyone, but now they know who you are, right?
Yeah, actually, it's about being top of mind. When they do need somebody, they'll think of you, right?
Yes. And that's what has happened. Like, I've made so many calls, so I have sent so many emails. And then, 6 months later, I get an email from a district that I once emailed saying, hey, I need people because the other people they use cannot find them SLPs. So then I'm down the list that they most likely have saved, which I'm glad they did. And then they call me, so that's so nice. Or email me. Usually it's through email, but it's nice that it's working.
Yeah, and that's the one thing to keep in mind too. And every business works the same. Sometimes you might plant a seed today that really only, comes to fruition in 6 months, a year. It could even be longer, right? So you've got to keep on planting those seeds and recognizing that some of them, sure, maybe someone has a need right now, but some of them might come later, much later, right?
Yes, for sure. And correct. So that's what has been happening with me. And the fact that I'm also doing bilingual evaluations, that's another way, another tool that I use for them to get to know me. It's like, okay, she was great at that service. It's something small, it's not big. They're not spending a lot of money on an SLP. It's a small purchase, but that small purchase helps them um, with the trust. They begin to trust me a little more. Like, oh, we worked with her and we like
Yeah.
her. We like her job. We like what she did. So maybe we can work with her a little more.
Love it. Right on. So Anna, it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business.
So now that I have been doing, I've been a six-figure SLP for a long time, doing it solo. And then now, for the past 3 years, I've been hiring SLPs. So what I have done for myself, I do it for others. I hire them, but it's different. So they're my employees. So obviously I get a cut. I'm the middleman. But what I want to do now is be a coach, an SLP business coach, where I am teaching, want to teach SLPs to do the same thing I did initially. Because again, only 10% of SLPs ever make six figures. But I was able to do it for many, many, many years. And anyone can do it. They can do it. Any SLP can make six figures. The reason that they don't is it's because they don't think they can, or they don't think it's possible. So I invite any SLP to six figures schoolslp.com, where I have introduced my new coaching program.
Love it. Love it. As long as they have a big why, right?
As long as they have a big why, correct. Yes, that's so important.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing too is that you sort of blazed that trail. So your why had to be a lot stronger. Now people can actually use the experience and the system that you've created to help them to do what you did. So it's not, the trail has been blazed now. So now they can sort of follow in your footsteps, right?
Yes, and it's a lot easier because I know it. I mean, I had to spend a lot of hours, pay a lot of money to figure it out. And it's easy. It's not that hard. Once you know, it's not anything. Like, it's like anything. Like, people that I've met, people that are millionaires who tell me it's easy to become a millionaire. I'm thinking, what? But because they know how to get there, it's easy. Recently I met somebody who said he made 4 million that year. It's like, but it's easy. I'm like, what? But I believe it is, but we just need to figure out how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like giving the answers to a test. If you had all the answers to the test, you could just quickly do the test and you'd be done and you'd have it all right. But getting those answers is the hard part, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and that's the thing where you need somebody to help you get there in order to be. I really believe that in order to be successful. Yes, you can do it on your own, but you will spend hours and hours or days and even years doing it. But when you have a mentor helping you and a peer group, with you, then you're going to get there a lot sooner.
You bet. So what was that website again? How do we find you?
Yeah, it's sixfigureslp.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna, for rocking out with me today. This is good fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's
No
been fun
problem.
too.
No problem. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.